Guys, if you are going to bed too late, you need to stop doing it. It is not good for your health. Really, trust me. You guys are trying to figure out, and the craziest thing is this whole sector of people who are looking to increase their dopamine sensitivity and all this stuff, right? And they're trying all these things to increase their dopamine sensitivity, like turmeric and all this stuff. And I'm not saying turmeric is bad, but they're not even addressing the basics. It's the same thing with the whole looks maxing community. They're trying to understand, oh my God, how do I bring out the cheekbones, all that stuff. I'm not saying I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, my cheekbones are popping, all that stuff. Okay, I'm not saying that. But I can create that analogy there because that same situation exists in that community where people are trying to skip a step. They think, oh my God, what can I do to get a better jawline or whatever? And they haven't even reduced their body fat to the point where those facial features are even showing. The same thing goes for dopamine, guys. People are trying to figure out how to better take advantage of their dopamine system to harness more motivation, energy, and focus. And they're not even addressing the sleep, guys. Sleep is number one. If you're going to bed at 2:30 a.m., chances are you're going to have less dopamine receptor sensitivity. The whole dopamine machinery might not be working properly. I mean, guys, who knows what's going wrong? Maybe the vesicles aren't filling with enough dopamine neurotransmitter. Maybe the release mechanisms are altered. Maybe the inflammation is altering the signaling between the post and the presynaptic neuron. Guys, you have to understand that there's just not enough studies assessing sleep and exactly what kind of machinery is not working at its best. Those specific studies don't really exist, but there are studies showing that, sleep does affect performance. And overall, going to bed too late, having your circadian rhythm so skewed that you're just always going to bed late. And, there's studies on night shift workers. I mean, that's just not healthy, right? But obviously, some people just don't have an option, unfortunately. And there's tips. Obviously, I'm going to make another video on that, on what you can do to minimize the damaging effects on that as much as possible. But if you have the option to plan your life in a sort of way where you're going to bed at, let's say, 10 p.m., 9 p.m., guys, that is the optimal scenario. You're going to harness so much more dopamine the next day. You're going to have so much more energy, so much more motivation, and you're just going to have so much more stamina. I've tested this out so many times, going to bed at 2:30, and it just gets worse every single hour. I mean, I used to be pretty bad. I used to go to bed at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Oh my gosh, guys. I was absolutely destroyed the next day. Zero motivation, zero energy. Even going to bed at 2:30 a.m. now is way too late. I'll notice it immediately the next day, even midnight. Guys, every hour you notice a difference. Try this. Like, honestly, well, actually, don't try this because honestly, you shouldn't be going to bed too late, but I notice every single hour. If I go to bed at 2:30, I feel even shittier than 1:30 versus 12:30. I still even notice a difference 11:30 to 12:30, even 10:30. 10:30, 9:30, there still is a difference. It just gets less, but there still is a difference. If I had to choose an optimal bedtime, I would ideally choose 9 p.m. and I would choose 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep. That's kind of my ideal. But yeah, if you're trying to figure out how to harness more motivation, more energy, more health, and even this relates to my prior analogy, explain this scenario, but it doesn't directly actually talk about that analogy that I gave. But it's funny because if you're also into looks maxing, if you go to bed earlier, it's also going to improve the way your metabolism works. So there's just so many benefits. Go to bed early, guys. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. I got a bunch of videos coming up. Let's go, guys. See you soon.